Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on our EB3 webinar. I'm going to start off by introducing myself. My name's Kirsten Halkra. I'm the founder of Immigrate to USA. Immigrate to USA is a website that I developed as a resource for South Africans who are looking to immigrate to the USA. I developed it out of my own journey or my family's journey here. We immigrated 3 years ago, stay in Florida, and out of those experiences, I've created a website as a resource for people to go to and learn tips and just a bit about life here. Part of the journey, I have established some wonderful relationships with great service providers who help families to get to the USA. One of those businesses is Induku. So I would like to introduce my guest, Trevor Thomas. He's the founder and CEO of Induku. And yeah, Trevor, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about Induku as a starting point?
Yeah, absolutely, Kirsten. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today. And for those of you that are in America, good morning. For those of you that are in South Africa, a very chilled winter's afternoon. We've suddenly had a complete cold front that has come in. So, guys, we started Induku Group in 2017, and we are very proud to be partners in helping Visa Solutions in the forefront of taking more than 2,000 truck drivers through to America. And we then built a program with them that was called Live Your Dream. And that expanded through into different spheres. And we've got certain platforms like American Adventure, and we do healthcare as well. But the heart of it is to really help people. So if you're looking to go to America, we want to be there to assist you to do that on the most successful paths properly, or the best path that would be for you and your family. And that is our heart, Kirsten. What we try and do is help people immigrate successfully. And that's why, as you and I have mentioned before, it's important for partners like yourselves and us, and the others that are on your platform to assist people. It's not an easy journey. It's a journey that's well worth the while and worth the wait. But you need to be talking with the right partners and get there on the right legs, right?
Right. Awesome. So I think before I jump into the questions and we unpack the EB3, I just want to quickly, for those people that have joined us, just distinguish quickly between an immigrant and non-immigrant visa. I think it's important to understand these sort of things when we look at different visa categories and the different routes to the USA, because ultimately a person who's looking to immigrate wants to end up with a green card and in time a citizen. So starting off with your non-immigrant visa category, though, that is visas like your L1, your O1, your H type visas. Those are non-permanent visa categories. So technically they don't end up in a green card. You can, through the journey, transfer to another visa category and end up in a green card, but ultimately, when you come in on those visa categories, it is not permanent. You are a resident alien. The immigrant visa is different in that when you come in, you get a green card and you are a permanent resident at that point. And within 5 years of that, you can then obtain citizenship. And I think that's an important thing to know as we talk about the EB3, because EB3 is an immigrant visa type,
Mm.
which I think makes it an exciting visa, because ultimately you get a green card and you can work towards your citizenship quicker than some of the other categories. Anyway, this is not my webinar, so let me not take too much more time. Let's start off by understanding what exactly is an EB3 unskilled visa. Who is this visa sort of meant for?
Kirsten, so I think, back to your point of immigrant and non-immigrant visas, there are five immigrant categories, right? So we refer to them as the EB classifications. You have the EB1, EB2, EB3, and then EB5. These ones all fall into different spaces. The one we'll be discussing today and unpacking with you is probably the one that most people go for. And the reason for that at the moment is because of the fact that the EB5 is an investment visa with talks that's going to be changing into what they refer to as a golden visa, right? So that's a massive investment, currently at 870,000 US dollars. So again, like you said, a lot of people want to get and obtain a green card, right? Permanent residency, because what does that mean? It means that I can live and breathe like any other American. The only thing I'm not entitled to do is vote until I have achieved naturalization or citizenship. So that means that we can then explore all of those things. So, Kirsten, let's focus on the EB3, like you mentioned, right? So let's talk about what it is. EB3 means that there is a job that you have applied for, and through that application process, we then obtain a visa for you. Now, the only difference to that is when we refer to skilled visa, it requires certain skills behind it, right? So in other words, there's a company, and let's use a lot of the ones that we've been dealing with over here. So we're talking about relative stuff, right? So in other words, there's a company that is looking for a truck driver that has specific skill set, right? So he has a code 14. He's a commercial driver. He has had 5 years worth of experience, no accident histories, etc., etc., etc. Right. So let's now unpack that. If that was, for example, we're looking for someone in the accounting space. If it's for a skilled visa, the company would be talking about what that skill set is. So in other words, I'm looking for a degree, we're looking for this, we're looking for that, whatever the case may be. So when we're talking about employment-based category 3 unskilled, all that it means is that the position that you're applying for is not required it doesn't require certain classifications or criteria, right? So that doesn't mean that if you've got skills and you are very qualified that you can't apply for the position. It just puts you into a specific category when we're talking about a visa that you're applying for. And obviously, then there is certain things that come along with it. So, in other words, what I mean by that is there's a priority date for people with an unskilled visa petition. But again, Kirsten, we've got people in South Africa that are very keen to open up a nice journey for themselves in America. And they might be extremely qualified, very successful businessmen, entrepreneurs. Now, that person might be, for example, a key accounts manager in any sort of other reference, but he might be very happy to apply for a position that we have on hand. And although that's an unskilled scenario, it doesn't mean that he's not allowed to apply, right? So remember, the regulations behind this is that there's a company that might be offering a position, and if you apply for that position, and the company is willing to give you that position, then you can follow a process of EB3 unskilled visa.
Okay. So, I mean, the fact that it's unskilled, I'm assuming that it's sort of lower or minimum wage type pay for those roles. How do you afford to live in the USA on an unskilled visa? How have your clients sort of overcome that? Because being here myself, I know the cost of living, and that just kind of is a nagging question for me when it comes to the unskilled option.
Mm. So, Kirsten, again, I think that a lot of people that are trying to apply for positions in America, they coming from all different parts of the world, right? We mainly deal with people that are coming from South Africa, although some of our market is also Australia and New Zealand. But the big thing is that when you're earning the dollar, as you all know, the minute you as a family stop trying to convert from rands what you're spending, you find yourself in a more comfortable setting, right? So the challenge that we have is when you're converting by 18 or 18.5 on a good day, we sort of closer to 18. But in any case, then it becomes costly. But you are right in saying that we are, if you're doing an unskilled position, then obviously it comes with pretty much entry-level positions and jobs. The big thing is this: that remember that America are in a position at the moment where their unemployment is around about 2.6%. They're looking for staff, not just in the unskilled sector. So most people that we take across to America have got a lot behind them, right? What do I mean by that? They come with a lot of resilience, fantastic English skills because our home language is English. And when we go and we sort of going, we want to make this work and we want to make the best of this for our families. So more often than not, we've got people that, a very good example, we've got a lady that was applied for a receptionist position in a hotel. And within 2 months, she was brought up into the space of a more senior position in the hotel. And with that, obviously, then comes the increase in salaries, the increase in leave, the increase
Yeah.
in all those different things, right? But again, let's talk about the affordability side. In South Africa, when you start off in a below position, you're sort of going, oh my goodness me, I'm right at the bottom of the scale. In America, it works on what we refer to as a wage determination. So we then define it with the Department of Labor, and we go, this is what any other American would be earning in that category. So therefore, you could also earn that amount of money, and that doesn't stop you from, for example, doing overtime. It doesn't stop you from, for example, doing secondary work if you wanted to. I mean, we've got people that, for example, coach rugby in the afternoon but deliver packages in the morning.
Yeah.
Again, it's about, listen, I really, really want to make myself a brighter future in what we all know is the land of opportunity, right? So again, let's talk about facts. Average household income, according to the poverty threshold that they have there, and that's the wording that they use, is $5,000 for a family of four on average. If you're talking about these positions, possibly between $2,000, $2,200 in that position.
Okay.
However, remember, if it was, argument's sake, Trevor applying for that position, I have my wife that is going to be applying for a position in her line of career, right? So
Yeah.
if your wife is a teacher, your wife could then go and work as a teacher. Similarly, if your wife is going to be the main applicant in a hotel, you could then go and be a key accounts manager, head of marketing, whatever it might be. You could then follow your career path from that perspective. So I think, Kirsten, and this might be one of the questions you ask me later, but what's important to understand is that when you apply for an EB3 visa, if I'm the applicant, it covers myself, my wife, okay, if it was, for example, you to be your spouse, and any kids under the age of 21 not yet married, right? So in other words, me applying for a position in America, even though it's unskilled, it gets my whole family into America, right? And I'm leaving South Africa with green card in hand. So you sort of got to go, well, what are the positives and what are the negatives? The
Yeah.
negative is this: I'm taking 3 steps backwards in my career path, right? But not for long. And the benefit is, hey, I've got a green card in hand, which gives my family access to all the benefits that anyone else would have.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So if you're looking at a family unit, you first of all, the whole family gets to go, everybody gets to work. The one person does the unskilled job for and it's for a year, right? That is the requirement,
Yeah. So, Kirsten, I think what's very
or at
important
least
here
a year.
is, yeah. So remember, I think, this is where it becomes very, people want to sort of box this. And I
Okay.
think what people need to understand is that this is an adventure,
Yeah.
right? So understand the companies that we're dealing with in America that are looking for people to come across, right? So let's use a very good example. We've got a company that is FedEx, right, in your hometown right now. FedEx is looking for positions, people to come in and they can obviously apply for those positions. Now, if you look at a company like FedEx, you starting in that company in a position of a what we refer to as a last mile delivery partner. But FedEx as a company has sales division, accounts
Mhm.
division, marketing divisions, HR divisions,
Okay.
logistics department. So you must remember, you going with the understanding of this. I'm doing this because I want to be in America and I'm happy to work for FedEx. And when I get there, I'm going to work my way up. Now, why is FedEx behind this? FedEx has got a problem because they don't have enough people to carry out the work that they need. So they're hoping to get people that are going to fill that space. You are permanently employed with the company. So the intent is that they're obviously going to grow you into the spaces and
Okay.
expand their business, right? You know as well as I know, in Florida at the moment, the expansion is insane. So what they're trying to do is really have staff that will fill those positions in the company. If it was for you, hold on, maybe Florida is not exactly where I want to be. After a year in any country that you live in, you would have an appraisal. You would have a discussion around certain things. Hey, listen, I'm not being stretched. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. Inevitably, what I'm saying to you is you're going to work your way up very quickly without even trying in the
Okay.
FedEx scope. If it's not falling in your line of stuff after a year, you can say, listen, guys, I've been here in this space. I'm not advancing. We're not moving forward in what we're doing. let's unpack this and see. But your position is one of permanency, right? So
Okay.
you could be with a company until you are 80 years old if you want to. Remember, there's also no retirement age in America.
Yeah.
So again, I think the understanding behind this is we need to be mindful of the fact that the sponsoring company is putting their name behind you, and they're sponsoring you to get to America. And the word sponsor doesn't mean I'm fitting all your bills. It means
Mm.
they pay for the Department of Labor process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what they're saying is that we're prepared to wait for you, and we can invest in you with the intention that we walk a long path together.
Okay.
So there should be an understanding, I think, mindfully and across the board, not that it's documented per se, that you would be, and give the company enough time to see what your capabilities are and your expertise are, and that you can see what the company can offer you, right?
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Uh, just talk us through the sort of typical journey, EB3 journey in terms of sort of timelines from application to arrival. I mean,
Yes.
it's sometimes quite disconcerting when you think about the time that it takes. But I mean, if I just look back at our journey, my husband had to work a year before we could even consider applying, and time really flies. So it seems like it's forever, but if you sort of go into the process, by the time everything sort of comes to fruition, you realize, well, it actually wasn't that long. But just, I'm saying that knowing that none of these visas are overnight. What is
Yes.
the process and the timeline for the EB3?
Again, Kirsten, to your point, right? A non-immigrant visa is something that you're going into the country for a temporary basis, so you can get them far quicker than when you apply for a permanent residency. But the big thing about this is that the timeline will always be a gray area, right? So in other words, this is also even in the EB5 space. I mean, I know some people that started their petition in 2019 and are still in South Africa. They haven't been able to get across to America, right? So we generally see that the scope for this and the timelines for an EB3 right now is, sorry, there's people in and out of my office over here. The timelines for this process right now is probably around 3 years, 3 to 4 years, depending on how long we get the Department of Labor approvals through. So the big thing about the Department of Labor approvals is this. When Trump was in office in the first season that he was there, right? So now we're talking about 2018, 2019. We used to get a Department of Labor approval anything between 42 days and 180 days. Under the Biden administration, what started happening is this Department of Labor approval started taking between 300 and 400 days. Now, what we need to do in terms of this process is get a Department of Labor approval because it's an employment-based Category 3 visa. What do we mean by that? The Department of Labor wants to understand that we are not taking away a job from an American. So we have to advertise the position. We have to do a prevailing wage determination. There's a lot of things that we have to do before we can cross this bridge. So typically, I want to say this to the people that this green card is a visa that is so sought after, Kirsten, that some people pay millions and millions and millions of dollars for. India and China wait 10 years to get across the United States of America. We want to manage expectations and say to people, look, you're looking at possibly a 3 to 4 year process. That could shift and it could come back, right? So it depends on, I mean, a lot of that to do is also because of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID closed the consulate in South Africa for 2 years. There's a backlog in those processes, right? So are we optimistic about timelines moving forward? We definitely are. We certainly see a difference from when Trump has come in. But we also need to manage people's expectations and understand that, listen, this is a green card process. And then, Kirsten, if I may, I want to say this. I think you and I have had lots of these discussions with individual people that you and I have crossed paths with, right? What do? They go, oh my goodness me, that is so long. That very same person would be sitting in my office for a pre-interview and they would go, oh, I can't believe it's here. I don't know, I needed a little bit more time, right? So you sort of go, my goodness me, I'm starting the process now, but this time just, it goes so quickly. So I hope that answers the question that you're asking. It's really a difficult question, and I think I just needed to give a little bit more context to it so that people understand. It is a journey, but the reward is that you leave South Africa with green card in hand, and there's no hoops that you have to cross once you're in America, right, Kirsten? I think that
Yeah.
the opposite side of that is a path like you guys took. We get you to America. We can do that. We get you to America on a temporary visa, non-immigrant visa, an L1 path, E2 path, H2 path, whatever the case may be. But then we have to file for an adjustment of status into an employment-based category 3 visa, right? So then that timeline actually extends slightly, although you could do some of it in parallel. Understanding though, there's
Never
some
mind the
things that you would know.
timeline. It's
There's
stress.
it's yeah, there's a lot of stress and listen, those things are not defined, right? So in other words, when we do an EB3, Trevor, you need a Department of Labor approval. Boom, that's simple as that, right? When we do an L1, no one says to you, hey, you have to employ 5 people and you have to have this and you have to have that. It comes down to subjectivity for year two's application and that sort of stuff. So in EB3 is what we do enjoy about an EB3 is it's very what I want to call objective, Kirsten. So what do I mean by that? It's a pathway that we guarantee people's financial investment into their future. Why can I do that? Because we're ticking boxes. As
Yeah.
long as you've got a clear criminal history, we don't have criminal activity on your name, and you've never been in breach of a visa was issued to you, we're going to come right. Now the verbiage is important. I can't guarantee you a green card because I'm not American.
Yeah.
What I can do is say your investment into this process, your professional fees, legal fees, documentation fees, and government fees, all that sort of stuff, that we're saying to you, listen, if we are not successful, we'll pay you your money back type scenario. It's just it's that clear in terms of what path we need to do and what we need to do in terms of the requirement.
Okay. I mean, obviously the hot topic right now is the refugee program. It's kind of everywhere. It's in your face.
Hmm.
But like honestly here, what are the benefits of the EB3 overtaking or over a refugee option for South Africans at the moment?
Okay, so Kirsten, the first thing I want to do is I want to say this. A lot of people are against this refugee thing in the space that we operate in, right? I'm going to say to you, first thing I want to say to you is if you're wanting to seek legal advice to do a refugee factor, that's fine. But we can't petition for you when you're applying for a refugee solution to the States, right? Why I'm not against it is because I think that there are seriously people in this country that have got no other option.
Hmm.
And for them, then it's a space for them to apply for, right? We got to remember, though, what does it mean when I petition for a refugee status? It means that I'm running from something in South Africa. Something has happened to me that has put me into a very, very, very negative situation, right?
Hmm.
So we can't go, well, hold on, I was impacted by BEE, but you're still running a business and you still do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've got to be
Yeah.
mindful of that. The other side of it is when you looking to perhaps put your name down there and say that, listen, I'd like to go. We need to explain to people that when you do that, you're saying I'm running away from South Africa because of X, Y, or Z. You can't then say suddenly in 6 months' time, hey, I want to come back home and visit mom.
Hmm.
You saying I need to close this chapter here because there's nothing for me here, and I need someone to give me a hope in America, right?
Yeah.
So what is the difference? There are criteria that needs to be met, and you need to understand that firstly to apply for refugee. The second thing is that it's not a guaranteed path, although it is mentioned as such. You need to go and read those defining lines. The beauty about going through an EB3 process is that you are entering the United States of America with a green card in hand, right? So we refer to it as a green card, but effectively you're entering with a permanent residency.
Hmm.
And again, I think the benefit is across the board, it is the most powerful visa in the world. What does it give you? It gives you the ability to open up your own business. Your kids can study. Your kids can get student loans at 1% in their own names. You can have access to, I mean, Kirsten, you know how many banks are in America. So there's a world of opportunity and a different space where you can then go there and have the opportunities and the decisions that you need to make for your own life, right? Refugee means that you are going under certain parameters, which means they take you to certain places, and that's where you're going to have to be. And after that, you might be able to petition for your family if they weren't seen as in the same space as you at that point in time. So there's a lot that people misunderstand when we refer to this refugee thing. So I think, again, knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
So people just need to make sure that they understand what they're signing up for by going for that. And I'd say to you, if you're really, really in a position that you have nothing in South Africa, right? Like a farmer that's lost his land, or really fearing for something, then great. But if you are not in that position, then get yourself to America under the banner where you can freely still come back to South Africa, freely still come and do what you want to do over here or in Australia or New Zealand, but have the permanent residency benefits of America and everything that offers you.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm on the same page. It's really also it's really mostly about your ties to South Africa and whether you want the ability to go back and forward to
Mm.
see family, to visit, whatever it might be. I'm going to wrap up and then we can open up to some Q&A. Tough question. I mean, there's realities, there's costs, that kind of thing. What should a family budget for this process? And I mean, you've outlined the value of the green card. So the cost of the EB3 is really not, you're not buying a visa. You are,
No.
it is way bigger than that. So just outline the costs that people need to understand in terms of this process.
Okay, so Kirsten, help me. Are we referring to approximate cost to immigrate, or are we referring to an EB3 visa petition?
No, I would say the entire, if a family came to you and said, we really want to look at EB3, one of us, husband, wife, are going to do the unskilled visa, we're a family of four. What are the expectations for the whole process to land up and arrive with
Mm.
my green card in the US?
So what I would like to say to you is this, that 95% of the families that we've sent through to America utilized their initial rands that they went across with to America for a vehicle, for transport, right? So
Mhm.
as soon as they arrived, they wanted to buy a little runaround, if I can put it to you that way, right? Totally different mindsets and wording behind that in terms of South Africa and America, but anyway. And they needed deposits for their accommodation for that first time being, while we do their social security numbers, get them working, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Kirsten, once they started earning the dollar, then they were fine, right? They weren't tapping into their South African rands. That is also relative, right? Kirsten, we can't go and eat wine and steak every single night because it's costing a lot of money. If we've just immigrated, that's going to tap down into resources, right? So I think, in a perfect world, I'd like to say this to you, that people would need to invest into the process. I would say approximately 30,000 US dollars, right? Why do I say that? You're looking at between 18 and 22,000 US dollars for a family of four to do all of the necessary to get your visa. And then flights are approximately $800 per person.
Mhm.
You want to have money in the accounts when you arrive there. You can put down a deposit for a Airbnb or this or that or the other. But that's probably where one would land, right? Now, we've had people that have gone through this process with far more money than that, and we've also had people that have gone through this process with far less than that. So typically, what one needs to do is rather have a chat with one of the Induku team, and then we could sort of understand the scenarios, bearing in mind that we look at this over a time period of 24 months that you'd be able to do your payments, right? So again, that's a broad spectrum and giving you sort of a high level understanding of what sort of investment one would require. And I am calling it investment because I'm not calling it an expense, because you're investing in your future. There is something at the end of that path, right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
suppose if you sort of took any other kind of visa category and put them side by side, the cost, you're going to end up spending in the same region, if not more, for any sort of visa application with an immigration attorney and that sort of thing, with the process. But I mean, to end up, if you compare it to the EB-5, which is your investment visa at
Yeah.
$870,000, it's which is now possibly going to become 5 million. So
Yeah.
it's affordable in comparison.
So
Um,
also, Kirsten, remember
yeah.
now with what you mentioned, right? 860,000 US dollars is what you need to put down. Then you still have legal fees, right?
Yeah.
So remember, every pathway that you choose is going to be some sort of legal attachment to it, right?
Hmm.
So an L1 process to give you an understanding, an L1, depending on how much documentation is required, attorneys would probably charge you anything between 5 and 10,000 US dollars, right? So if you sort of now break that down for an L1 visa as a non-immigrant visa, then you sort of go and hold on, if I look at investing this and I've got a permanent residency, although it's going to take me a longer time period, and I might have to be in a space where I'm working in a company not exactly where I'd like to be just as yet, right? I'm happy to build myself into that space. Then this is a great pathway. It is really, really a great pathway. And I think that the success behind what we've done speaks volumes. So again, it's a pathway that I'm on. So it ticks all the boxes, and it gets you and your family into a space where you're then in a position in America where you can decide, if you're not happy in a red state, go to a blue state. If you're not happy in the center of America, go to a coastal area and be by the sea. If you want the cold, hey, America offers the cold, and it offers the hot, and it offers everything else that goes with it.
Lots to
Chris,
choose from.
yeah, if I may say, I think that one of the things that I'd like to say to our participants today is this. A lot of people have sent kids across to America on an F1 visa, student visa, right? So I want to give my child the best possible education that they can have, and I'm moving them to the States to go and study. Now, let me tell you that I support that 100%. This is where I've got one challenge for you. They study for 3-4 years. At the end of that study period, their visa comes to an end because they were there on a student visa. What happens to that child now? That's where most of our business comes into play. And it's sad because it's at the end time. And now you've got a child that's there that is having to come back to South Africa because they haven't got a position to be in America under a permanent basis. So that's why, like you mentioned in the very beginning of this, a non-immigrant visa gets you into America, and that's wonderful. But we need to understand why the EB3 is such a beneficial visa is because you remain in America with all of the benefits, and you're not then restricted to certain things and limitations.
Yeah.
So that is critical.
Awesome. So, just to our audience, if there's any questions that you want to pose, if you can just pop them into the chat, and we'll see if we can cover them. I think um, there is a question that's been posed about refugee status. Obviously, that is completely run by the South African USA Embassy. And any sort of communication regarding that needs to be done directly with the embassy. Nobody else is able to sort of assist you with your refugee queries. Um, yeah, so if there's any questions you would like us to pose to Trevor, just pop them in the chat. Otherwise, Trevor, maybe you just want to tell us you've got lots of success stories. Any particular one that sticks out that you want to share with us?
Oh, goodness me, Kirsten. All of my stories are such great stories. You begin to walk such a wonderful path with these people that they become family friends of yours. What has been amazing is that there are a number of families that have really been in a space where opportunities for them in South Africa came to an end. And when they are now in America and successfully there and immigrated and just sort of, really getting entrenched into the swirls of things, it's just wonderful to see. I think, probably one of my favorite stories is, and many people in South Africa would know them, is the owner of Tony's Spaghetti Grill. It's been around for like 24 years. That used to be in your backyard, Kirst. So Tony and Liesel, as well as John and Karen, and the rest of their family, they went to America and they are just absolutely loving it and living the dream. And I think that's probably close to my heart because Tony often comes here for 2 months or so, and then he comes and checks on the business and does his thing here and that sort of stuff. But the success that is really sort of that resonates for me there is that they had within the family there was two teenagers, and at the time that they immigrated was at 22 years old and 24 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And then also a teenager per se, and I think it was around about the same age as my daughter, around about 15. And if you see how the younger people have slotted in and are just, man, they are flying there. It just that for me is really the biggest success stories, right? When you see that they've gone across there, and they were the ones that were like worried, but what are my friends here? What about this? And now, I mean, to give you an example, Kelly landed in Houston, and Tony and them have all moved across now to Carolina. And Kelly's still in Houston going, man, I love this place. This is just the place that I want to be. And she's just flying. She's making absolute success for herself. And those are the stories that we love. But every family is special to us, Kirsten. I think I've been to the airport too many times. It's a bittersweet, but I generally go and say goodbye to most of the people if I can. I'll go and have a beer or something with them to say goodbye. Or one of my staff is always there, and we shake hands. It's like I say, it's a bittersweet. We walk a long path, but it's so rewarding to have walked this path and then get there and go, hey, it's so nice to see you cross this thing into the new onto the new adventure, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know you guys work really closely and have a close working relationship with your clients. So we've got a few questions. Let's see if we can answer as
Mm.
many of them as we can quickly. Linnell's asking, is there an age limit on the EB3? I'm 55, my husband's 59.
No, Linnell, no age limit. If you go and look at my Facebook page, there's actually a picture there. The oldest gentleman, his wife was the main applicant, but he was 80 years old, and she was at the time that she started a petition, probably 65 or so. Remember, in America, there is no cutoff. If you are willing and able and you can work, there is employment to go to. So all good. I think that because of the time of the process and that sort of stuff, we generally, I would say to you, don't leave it for much longer, Linnell, if I can put it that way, right? I think that's a good way of answering that one.
And then there's one here from Les, if I understand. It says, can you apply for EB3 on single status and then bring family over? I think that's kind of broader than EB3. I'm assuming you would come over, get your green card, and then you want to bring family over. I know that once you become a citizen, you can then bring your parents. Siblings takes
Mm,
a lot longer. You're looking at 14, 15 years to bring
mm,
siblings over. But I think
mm.
I think in simple terms, I can maybe answer that one already.
I
Dearval
think
says, yeah,
so.
sorry,
Sorry,
Trevor.
Kirsten, I'm going to jump in there. I'll tell you what sometimes happens. A lot of people would what they want to do is they want to go across, and then they want to bring their family members over later. So, Les, to give you an example, many of our truck drivers that go across, they want to go across, and they don't have the finances to take family immediately. We have got what we refer to in the law, a parameter called follow to join, right? So you could go across, and then we do a follow to join for your family. But I'm going to ask you to contact us, and then we're very, very happy to talk you through that process. I can't take the time now to explore that. Is it possible? 100% possible. Okay.
Awesome. Deerwald says, Trevor, do you have a list of some companies like FedEx you work with to fill positions, or is it up to the applicant to find uh, something?
So, Dewald, very good question. Thank you for that. We have some people that approach us from a company perspective, and some people that say, "Listen, we've got this company that is looking to employ me." The big thing, Dewald, is this is a long process to get the company approved by the Department of Labor, right? So that's why the farmers do a temporary visa, and they don't go, "Listen, I want to do this on a permanent basis." So more often than not, what happens is people approach us and say, "Hey, what companies do you have currently that we could look to apply the different positions for?" So both sides, my advice to you, yeah, is look at what companies are currently available that you can petition for, because that process on its own is a year before you can even start then trying to get other parts of that puzzle put into that space. Okay, so
I see Deerwald's added a secondary. He says, if you have a business in the USA with no permanent employees, can you employ yourself over there under the EB3?
no.
Okay.
Short answer, Dewald, but there's a lot to unpack behind that. So if you don't mind, let's get onto a call, and then I can unpack that for you. But let me put it to you this way: the USA is extremely mindful of companies that are there that are trying to employ family or friends or this or that or the other. So you're going to open up yourself for failure. I think there's a different path. If you've got a business there, you could use a different pathway to try and make that permanent. But that's a much longer discussion than what we have time for today.
Uh, Byron says, I'm a commercial pilot, FedEx pilot. It's a dream. How long do I have to pack boxes for FedEx before I can change roles uh, to full my potential as a pilot and not a last mile delivery guy?
Yeah. Wow, Byron. So I'm laughing, my friend, because you won't believe how many pilots we are busy doing things for that are currently doing a stint in Saudi or in Dubai. So Byron, the first question I would have asked you is, hey, listen, are you married? Do you have a spouse? Let's unpack that. Alternatively, where your challenge comes in, my friend, you've got to keep up your hours and that sort of stuff. So me putting you into a FedEx role, there's a lot that's going to come behind that on how we keep your hours up and that sort of stuff. So I want to advise you, Byron, on the best pathway possible. I'd like to rather ask you to engage with me on a one-to-one. Let's just unpack it for you a little bit better, my friend. Otherwise, we're going to maybe steer you down the wrong path, and I'd rather give you better advice, understanding the whole story.
Um, if a company in the USA has an offer on the table, but this is new for them and they'd like to know which visa would be best, obviously working towards or coming over with a green card. I think that's sort of what you mentioned previously, where there's already a
Mm.
job offer. I think you can maybe chat through that quickly.
Yeah. So there's an offer on the table, but this is new for them. So again, right? So if you wanted to do this on a basis of an EB3, the company itself has to be approved by the Department of Labor. That literally means, Les, if I can put it to you this way, the company has to literally, and forgive this, but this is the best way that I can explain it to companies in America. You literally have to lift your skirts to the Department of Labor. What do I mean by that? They are going to come in and they're going to go through each and every single thing of yours, right? So in other words, they want to understand that your everything to do with the IRS is up to date, right? So if you're talking from South Africa's terms, all your statutory elements is up to date. Everything is up to date from a perspective of compliance. You need to prove financials that sustain bringing people from South Africa. It's a long process. Then we have to do wage determinations and advertisements to prove that we're not taking away a job from an American. So again, just very shortly, I've unpacked that for you on a basis of going, look, that company has got a lot of hoops to jump through. If it is a well-established company in America that is already employing a lot of people and they're going, I can't find necessary staff to fulfill what we need to do this job, then I would say to you, go that path. Alternatively, we need to spend more time around that and the company that you're referring to.
I think this is a good one. So, hi, thanks for the session. $30,000 is a big chunk of money. I understand the risk reward. Is there a guarantee that you'll be employed? Do you assist with placement? And are you guaranteed employment for the extent of the 5-year validity period of the he corrected to the EB3? What positions are available? I'm semi-skilled in corporate space and would not be keen on driving trucks, for example.
The good news is we're not going to put you in a position of driving trucks. I think what's important to realize here is remember that what happens with regards to an employment-based visa, right? So this is an EB2 is far different. And Kirsten, maybe next one we talk about an EB2 and what that looks like, right? So the EB2 focuses on the individual. Hey, Trevor, you're a pilot, and sorry, I'm now using this. Trevor, you're a pilot. What makes you different from any other pilot in the space of pilots, right? There's certain things and qualifications, but what makes you unique and special, and why are you of national interest to America? When it's an employment-based category 3, whether it be skilled or unskilled, it refers to a company, a sponsoring company. In other words, like I mentioned to you, FedEx, this might be Stout and Trailers, it could be Subway, it could be any of these companies. They have gone to the Department of Labor and they've said to them, listen, we want to get approved. We want to bring people in from outside of America because we can't find the skill sets we're looking for in America, right? Now, what does that mean? That means that you're applying for a job and they are giving you the job. In other words, we give you that job offer today. On the back of that job offer, we marry you to that company, and you are effectively then from that date onwards employed by that company, but you're only going to start work when you've got your visa in hand. Right. So it's a guarantee that company has employed you. You're going to work for that company. You're going to be with that company for that period. And that's why this is probably when better understood, this is probably the best visa to look into. Because again, what's happening here is, hey, I've applied for a position. If Kirsten applied for a position and the company gave her that position, the Department of Labor or the immigration space can't turn around and go, but Kirsten, you're too pretty for this job. Kirsten, you too what is the words I'm looking for? You've got too much experience. You've got too. Remember, they can't now say, but hold on, you don't qualify for that criteria. It's very simple. You applied for a position. The company there afforded you the position, and on the back of that, we do your visa transaction for you. That's the long and the short of it.
Okay. Can regularly traveling to US on B12 for extended periods impact EB3 application that's already in process?
Very, very good question. So in the beginning stages of this, we mentioned that there are two things that can cause you not to be successful in your application, right, or your petition. Number one, do not be in breach of a visa that has been issued to you. Please, guys, I can get around some remarks on a police filing if there's a case number or something like that. We've had some things that has been ridiculous because this is South Africa, right? So we've had some things that is ridiculous, and we've managed to get around that, and the consulate is even then fine with it if it's off your name. A breach of visa, they will ban you for 10 years, simple as that. So what I'm saying about that, if you've got a visa to go and work in America, stick to that. If it tells you to come home at a certain time, stick to that. A B1, B2 visa means I'm going there as a tourist or a business person. It doesn't mean that I can work in America, and it doesn't mean that I can do anything outside of that, and I'm allowed to stay for up to 6 months at a time. So please just, you can go in and out as many times as you want to, as long as you remain within the confines and the parameters of your visa that you've currently got issued.
Okay. If we're already in the USA on a non-immigrant visa, can you still help with opportunities?
Definitely. We do that a lot, Kirsten. Many of our applicants are already in the United States of America, and then we try and help them solidify that into a permanent site. There are, though, I'd like to just say there are T's and C's, right? Kirsten, the biggest challenge we have, for example, is we are probably the biggest embassy for farmers, what we refer to as the H2 agricultural visa. People go across from March to December, the 9-month stint. So remember now, this process is a 3-year process. So he can't do it in that first 9 months, but he might be able to do it in the second season. But is it possible? 100%. We do it a lot, but there are certain parameters around that. So I'm just making that clear. Otherwise, people go, but you said.
Okay. And then this is quite a good question. Are companies willing to wait for employees for the EB3 process before you get the visa, given the time delay?
Yes. So I think the best way to explain it is this. We have got companies, for example, let's use this. Subway at the moment is not as big. Kirsten, you can back me on this one. If you go to Australia, Subway's everywhere, right? In America, they're not as big, but they're trying to get there. Now, they're not talking about, hey, I want people today. Their vision is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years from today. We have done, for example, Stoughton Trailers. Stoughton Trailers, the biggest trailer manufacturer in America. They are the biggest. And they're looking for people that can help them to build their company and grow and have a bigger footprint. But the only way they can do that is with people. And that is, again, they're not going, hey, listen, I want to bring someone in for today. They're saying, I'm prepared to invest in Trevor. And hopefully when Trevor's young, he's working with my company, he loves it so much, and he wants to be part of us until he's 70 years old, then I'm happy to have this long-term goal and vision. If you look at a company, for example, Stoughton Trailers, they've been around for years. Badger Bus, I think, was 50 years. So these companies, they are massive companies, and they're going, we need to have a vision beyond today, because today we've got a problem. The biggest problem that you have from America at the moment is this, guys. If you are American and you are a citizen, you can't even live on the dollar, right? It's what they refer to it as. You can live on the dollar. In other words, it's very easy to just jump from job to job. There is no loyalty behind those people. If they get offered $20 more, they're going to go there. If they get offered $50 more, they're going to go there. You get paid the same amount of money if you're in certain sectors, right? So what there's even, I mean, I can tell you about McDonald's 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, McDonald's in certain areas was paying you $50 to come for an interview. Why did they do that? If you come for an interview and you get your $50, they say to you, but how much are you earning at the moment? Oh, well, I'm earning $2,000. What if I pay you $2,100? People need people. That's the biggest thing. Kirsten will tell you, wherever you walk in America, doesn't matter which state, there are signboards everywhere looking for staff. We need help. We need resources. So the problem that they've got is that they've got everything else, but they need people to grow their businesses. So 100%, guys, this for them is an investment into their future. And that's why we've got this relationship with them, because they're also relying on us to help them get the best suited people, right? So that's not people that are just going, hey, I want to get there on the best foot possible, and then I'm going to run off and do. Again, remember, immigration is about your intent. What is your intent and what is your purpose for going to the United States of America? We dive into that extremely, extremely hard. So while you might be interviewing us on how we're going to get you there, we interview you. Are you the best suited candidate for our company? Because I want to still do business with Subway or any other company for years to come, not just for, hey, we're helping you with 10 people and then we're going to walk away.
Yeah. There's they pay a take-on bonus here in our area for school bus drivers.
Mm.
500 or $1,000 take on bonus because there's a shortage of school bus drivers. There's
Listen, let me tell you something. Pilots, that's why I was asking just now. Pilots have, so again, right? Why don't airlines want to get involved in the Department of Labor process? They don't. Simple as that. They don't want to be part of that process. So what do? They employ a pilot and they say, hey, you sort out your immigration. If you got your immigration sorted out, here's your startup bonus. This is what we're going to give you. And sometimes those figures are man, they're phenomenal. But again, it's like, hey, can you legally work in my country? If you can, 100%, this is your job. So I think the reality is this, and this is a typical scenario for me. If you asked Kirsten or Trevor today to find you a job in America, we'd probably successfully get you a job within 48 hours. Kirsten, that for me is not even a challenge. I'd get you a job in 48 hours. The challenge is this. You will be on an interview with that person, and after the pleasantries like, hey, how's the weather? What's this? What's that? They're going to ask you, are you legally allowed to work in America? Go and test me. Go and test Kirsten. They're going to ask you, are you legally allowed to work in America? And the answer on the back of that is obviously no, unfortunately not. Sorry, we got to end this conversation. So getting the work, having an opportunity in America, and that I think for me, Kirsten, is what is so empowering about America. No matter what you or your husband or your children want to do, there are no limitations.
Yeah.
If you want to open up a car wash, you can do it. If you want to go and study veterinarian, you can do it. If you want to, whatever you want to be, you can be that in America. And that's the beauty about what this visa really, really offers you.
Yeah. Yeah. My son is 16 and he works at the local Publix. He runs a car washing business. There's there's uh, there's not a shortage of jobs that I can tell you. So there's a question about the yachts here. I'm going to skip that one. I'll answer that one on email.
Perfect. Perfect.
Uh, let's just check here. I'll send you this anonymous one as well, which you can deal with
Okay.
afterwards. Okay. Are there any
So
options available to join the US Armed Forces?
yeah, so let's quickly touch base on there. The US Armed Forces is a pathway that many people want to join into, and I tell you why. There's a lot of privileges in doing that. You can apply for citizenship far earlier and all that sort of stuff. They do not, however, do it from a process of an employment-based factor, right? So if you had a spouse or something like that, and you wanted to then apply then, or if you have a son that is wanting to go and do that, that's a different scenario. But unfortunately, they don't do it as an offering. Remember, it's not a company, right? So they can't do a Department of Labor certification on the US Air Force or Army per se, or Armed Forces. The question around British Army and hold UK citizenship. So the beauty about that is you could go into America, but again, it's on a non-immigrant visa. You could get there quicker because you've got a UK and British passport. Dual citizenship doesn't impact your chances, not for or against. Again, remember, guys, when we're talking about the United States of America, this is very, very different to going to ask for a heritage visa. So it's ancestral visa, sorry, an ancestral visa, or for example, asking for a visa from New Zealand or Australia. America only gives visas under 5 categories when we're talking about EB, right? So the first one is you've got a family member direct, otherwise mom, dad, brother, sister. And like Kirsten said, that is a long waiting list, right? Or timeline, should I say. Number 2 is I play the diversity lottery that could get you an entrance into it, but please understand it is the lotto. It's like playing roulette. Probably with a far lower hit ratio. The third one is then EB5, which we've spoken about, that investment visa, and then of course then you've got employment based, and employment based would cover 3 things. In other words, you are, argument's sake, a neurosurgeon, and America needs you. They want you. They will then say to you, we would want you to come across under that banner. The rest of them are all then under a non-immigrant visa. So there's only certain pathways to get there under a permanent residency factor.
Okay. I think we're going to close it there. I don't want to, I think we've taken up the whole hour. So I just want to, the questions we haven't answered, I will make an effort to get back to those people. So I just want to say thank you, Trevor, for your time and for explaining the EB3 to us. Hugely valuable. I think it's a great visa option for South Africans who are really looking at and serious about their options and routes to the US. And yeah, we'll be unpacking a whole lot of the different other visa categories over the next few weeks. I'll send out the recording, share it. And yeah, thank you for your time. Appreciate you chatting to us today.
Absolute pleasure, Kirsten, and thank you for creating this safe environment for people to come and explore things and chat in the space. And I think what's amazing about what you do is that you're really trying to bring all of these different things together, right? Who to use if you are moving, what, this and that. So it's certainly a lovely space that you've created, and I'm very glad to be working in partnership with you. So thank you for your time as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon. Cheers. Bye.